Hello, Crossroads families. Today we are going to talk a little bit about the high school process. Now, please keep in mind that things might be a little bit different next year for the 2020-21 school year, just because things ended a little bit differently for the 2019-2020 school year. But we're going to go and talk a little bit about how things have been working in the past with Baltimore City Public Schools and some of the Catholic and independent schools in the area. So, Baltimore City Schools is a school choice system. That means that all students must apply to city high schools. So, in this PowerPoint, I'm going to review the process and we're going to look at what we can do now so that hopefully you will feel a little bit more prepared as we go into the next school year. We're going to talk about three different types of high schools. First, we're going to talk about Baltimore City Public Schools, the Catholic or sometimes called parochial schools, or the independent private schools. So, all students must apply to Baltimore City Public Schools. There are several ways to apply to Baltimore City Public Schools just to make things a little bit extra confusing. First, there will be one main choice application, and on that choice application, you'll list your top 5 choices. But some schools are audition based schools and they have separate applications. And you usually have to prepare a portfolio and or have an audition. And those schools are for Baltimore School for the Arts and Baltimore Design School. Other schools, like charter schools, have separate applications. Similar to what you did to get into Crossroads, you'll have to fill out a separate application for these schools, and they will have their own lotteries. Those schools are City Neighbors, Coppin Academy, and Green Street Academy. Please note that the Coppin Academy and Green Street Academy usually have their applications online, where City Neighbors usually has theirs as a paper application. Several schools you'll need to interview for. NAF, BARD, and the new P-TECH programs all have interview requirements. Also, BARD has a writing sample that you'll need to complete. For those people interested in the Ingenuity program at Poly, there is a separate application and a test that goes along with that. So some of the popular Baltimore City public schools that you hear a lot of students talk about are Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, which is Poly, Baltimore City College, also known as City, Paul Lawrence Dunbar, Western, which is all girls, Mergenthaler Vocational Technical, which we know as MERVO, Baltimore School for the Arts, and a very popular charter school is City Neighbors. So you'll also hear people talk about composite scores. Composite scores are what the schools use to rank students for acceptance. Baltimore, Poly, City, Western, Dunbar, Mervo, Edmondson, and Carver have used composite scores in the past. Composite scores are usually made up of the 7th grade averages and the first quarter of 8th grade, along with a percentage given to the 7th grade park scores. And like we said, with the schools closing and park scores not being used this year, the park test not being taken this year, things might look different. For example, in some years, they've used iReady scores instead of park scores. So we might have to see how things change for next year. But this is what they have been using. So then what happens is they come up with a composite score and then rank all the students based on that composite score and take the top however many students they'll accept. For example, maybe Poly is going to take 400 students. So they'll take the students with the top 400 composite scores. You'll notice that the cutoff composite score to apply to Poly, City, Western, and Dunbar is a 610. But this year, the lowest score that was accepted into Poly was a 714, and City was 682. Western 624, and Dunbar about a 620. So what that means is for Poly, it's usually about A's or for City, A's and B pluses, and then 3s or 4s on park scores, just to kind of give you an idea of where you're looking for in shooting. And so if you think about for maybe like the 620 with that Dunbar Western range, you're probably looking in the 83, 85 range. Here is the calculations that they use for each of the scores. You'll notice that Dunbar, City, and Western use the same composite score. Poly uses a separate composite score, and Carver, Edmondson, and Mervo use a third composite score. It is possible, we have heard that Carver, Edmondson and Mervo will not be using composite scores next year, but a lot of things are up in the air. So you'll be getting three at this point in time, three different composite scores. Um, as you'll see, City, Western, and Dunbar multiply the math, English, and overall GPA by 2. Poly, because it is a more, or it's mostly being considered a more math and science based program, actually multiplies the math score by 3, and just the English score just looks at it one time. So that is why how those two are different. So you'll notice if you're somebody who has a little bit higher of a math score, when you get your 3 composite scores, you'll see that your poly score will be a little bit higher than this one. But usually these two scores end up being fairly similar. Okay, so we talked about some great examples. So this is some great examples that correlate to what we've seen in previous years for high school acceptances. So a lot of times we see with the Catholic schools and Cristo Rey is that you want a solid B average. And obviously that may change what they're looking for depending on scholarship money, but for acceptance itself, you really want a solid B average. What we've seen for Mervo, Carver, and Edmondson in the past is, a solid C plus, B minus average. Dunbar kind of in that 85, Western 80 to 85 range, and again, that kind of depends on the year to year. City, we've seen maybe 88s and above, Poly 90 and above. And again, this changes year to year, and a lot depends too on test scores. And we won't know for next year what that will look like, but this is kind of what we've used in the ballpark range before. And then students who've gotten into some of the top private schools, we see a lot of high A's, so 95s and above for those schools. The important thing right now is for you to think about what is the right fit for you. You want to find a school that is the best place for you. So some things to think about. Do you want a small school versus a large school? Would you like an art-based school, a gender-specific school, or do you want a school that offers some college credit? So there's a lot of different opportunities out there and different programs and different schools. So you want to find the one that suits a lot of your criteria. Some schools offer different CTE programs, which are career and technical education is what that stands for. So the ones that we think about most for those schools are Mervo, Carver, and Edmondson. However, a lot of different schools offer different CTE programs that you can look into with a variety of subjects. For example, NAF offers a few different CTE programs. ACE offers some CTE programs. So again, if you want to know more about specific CTE programs, you can go to the school choice website and search more about specific things that you might be interested in. Are there other special programs or opportunities that you would like to see at a school? For example, some schools offer ROTC. Maybe that's something you're interested in. So you can look at schools that have those, or maybe debate or engineering type clubs. So those are the types of things you want to look for. What are the qualifications? Do you need to do an interview? Do you need to have certain scores? So think about that. Where are your grades now? Where do they need to be to apply to the schools you're interested in? I definitely recommend, hopefully, schools will open up in the fall and we will be able to have a high school choice fair where we'll invite some of the different schools so you can get a chance to talk to some schools, learn more about them. Other schools offer high school fairs, and then there's a lot of open houses that you can attend in the fall. You can also attend some shadow days and visits to help narrow down your choice. And research. That's the biggest thing you can do right now. With schools being closed, campuses being closed, the biggest thing you can do is do your research. Go to websites. You can even talk to people that have gone to the school. Go to the school now. What is the school like? Do they have what you're interested in? What is the feel? What is the culture like? All of those important questions. And if you're looking to audition at a school for like Barcelona School of the Arts, since you have some more time on your hands, it's a great time to start auditioning practice. So if it's vocal or dance, starting to think about those. If it's art, starting to put together some of your portfolio. So where are you going to apply? If you meet the criteria, you can apply to Poly, City, Western, or Dunbar, depending on what you're interested in, or Mervo, Carver, or Edmondson. You can look to apply to some of the charter schools. Again, they won't have the composite score requirement. A lot of times the charter schools are a little bit smaller, but they are also competitive to get into as a lot of people usually apply, but it's lottery, so you just never know. And then with BARD, you'll have to do the sample interview. And the nice thing about BARD is that you can attend some virtual open houses now that they're having if you are interested. And open houses next year. What BARD does is BARD offers college credit. So your junior and senior year, the classes that you will take will go towards an associate's degree. You can audition for Baltimore School for the Arts or Baltimore Design School. Baltimore School for the Arts has performing arts as well as visual arts. So there's voice, acting, there is other theater. You could do music, instrumental music of different kinds. They also have a stage design and visual arts, and the newest thing that they have is storytelling and filmmaking. Um, Again, you can with Baltimore Design School, they have graphic design, architecture, and fashion design. Some schools will offer the different CTE options, and the PTech programs are becoming more popular. So with PTech, there are PTech programs at 3 schools. The Dunbar PTech program is focused in the health sciences. The Carver PTech program is computer science and technology, and then the New Era PTech program is focused on transportation technologies, which is working with all sorts of transportation. So everything that happens with shipping, like the ports of Baltimore, you could think about airlines, and then you can also think about railroads. So there's a lot of behind the scenes work that they do. So what happens with the PTech programs is students will take their regular high school classes through the PTech program. They will also have special classes related to the specific program, and then they will be able to take college classes starting right away to work towards their associate's degree in whichever field it is that they are working on. They will also have the opportunity to have internships in their field, and they also, through youth works, will be able to get paid for some of the college classes that they take during the summer. The Ingenuity program at Poly is a specialized program at Poly, accelerated. You can look more on their website for more information. There is a separate application online, and then usually in January they take a test that helps determine if somebody is accepted into the Ingenuity program or not. Okay, so now we're going to switch gears to the Catholic schools. There are a variety of Catholic schools in the area, and they fit a variety of different needs. You don't have to be Catholic to attend. The schools offer some financial aid through each of the schools. Cristo Rey offers the most significant tuition assistance for students who qualify. And how that works is at Cristo Rey, students start an internship from their freshman year, and that helps to pay for some of the tuition. So a lot of times that is a more affordable option. And you can also look for different additional scholarships on the Archdiocese website. And we can talk about some of the different other scholarships that we know of. So here are some of the Catholic schools in the area. Some very popular ones with Crossroads students have been Archbishop Curley, Cristo Rey, and IND. Independent schools we talk about kind of also known as private schools. Again, there's financial aid and scholarships available through specific schools. Here's some of the popular independent schools in the area. There are many. In the last few years, we've had students attend Friends, Park School, McDonough, Gilman, Roland Park, Bryn Mawr, and St. Paul School for Girls. We have had people at Garrison Forest, St. Paul School for Boys in the past, and Boys Latin. The process for applying to Catholics and independent schools is very similar. They have separate applications, which at this point are usually online. It's very important to make sure you watch out for due dates. Most of them are due in December. You'll usually need to fill out a record release form, and that allows Crossroads to send your records to the school. There's usually recommendations, usually 2 or more, that are required by the English and math teachers, and then sometimes other teachers as well. A lot of the schools have essays that you need to work on, and then an interview. I really recommend that we practice interviewing before you go on your interview. It's a good way to practice that skill, along with thinking of different types of questions that they might ask. And for the essay, I always recommend that you work with Miss Hammond on your essay so it can get to the best possible place. These schools also have financial aid forms that you'll need to fill out. Again, those are also online. And then you also want to just check with the school to make sure they don't have any extra supplemental financial forms you need to fill out. To get into the Catholic and independent schools, each of them have a test that you should take. There's the high school placement test, which is for Catholic schools. You have to take it if you're going to apply to a Catholic school. Cristo Rey does not require it, but if you're going to apply to any other school other than Cristo Rey, you'll need to take the high school placement test, and that's usually given the first 2 Saturdays in December. The IC test is a test given to for independent schools. It is given throughout the fall and I guess early winter at any of the independent schools. You can take it at any of the schools, and you just have to make sure that your scores are sent to the schools that you are applying to. So things you can do now. In the fall, you can hopefully attend some open houses. Right now, I think you could look to take some virtual tours of the schools online. Some might even have some virtual open houses this spring. You can always call and speak with admissions staff, and when schools open again, take a tour. Research, that's the biggest thing you can do now. Visit the websites, talk to students who attend or have attended, and you can start studying for the IC or HSPT now. There's a lot of online study guides and tests you can do. You can also purchase study guides on Amazon. And reading, I always suggest reading every night to increase your vocabulary and other skills. Remember, when you're going to talk or visit with the schools, you want to prepare for your visit. Do your research so you know what the school has to offer. And also remember, you're interviewing them as much as they are interviewing you. So if you have questions about specific programs or what the culture is like at that school, make sure to ask about it. If you're going to actually go visit with them, make sure you think about how you're dressed and make sure you're pleasant with everyone. Those firm handshakes, if we are indeed handshaking by then. Again, you can always practice interviewing beforehand with myself or with someone else. Make sure you ask questions. More importantly, stand out. Some other things you could do is you could start making a resume now. You'll need that if you're going to apply for certain scholarships. You could talk about volunteer work, after school activities, different community activities you might be involved with. If you're not involved in activities now, once we're allowed to be involved in things again, you might want to start looking into ways you can volunteer or other extracurriculars you can get involved with. Remember, you definitely want to stand out, write thank you notes whenever possible, and always follow up with schools to make sure they have everything you've sent. So in summary, like we've talked about all throughout this presentation, do your research. Whether it's a city school or a Catholic school, make sure you're researching what the schools have to offer, what the culture is like, and how that school is a good fit for you. Make sure you're prepared for your visits. Make sure that you meet deadlines. It's better to be early than late. Be in contact with the schools, get involved, keep those grades up, and start researching different scholarships and things now. I hope you enjoyed our presentation today, and I look forward to speaking and answering any questions you may have in the future.